Guys, I'm glad to see you're smiling this morning because, first of all, it's good to see you. DT, Holly, how are you today?
Fantastic. And you, Mitch?
I am on top of the world. I don't want to be, again, you guys don't take this the wrong way because it's going to sound like a compliment, but I kind of look forward to like getting together with you guys on these. First of all, we're going to bring back an episode that we did. Brace yourself. I can see how you're sitting in a diner, but 2.5 years ago already, it was only episode 22. We talked about the broken culture of tipping, and I thought it would be a great episode today to, 2.5 years later and then some to revisit it and see if anything's changed.
And it hasn't.
Well, it apparently
Maybe.
has, but it's gotten worse, I guess.
Yeah, it's a net negative, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
Well, it got different because they created a word for it because we have to have these dumbass words because that's the society we've got. But tipflation is what they're calling it.
I just call it tip crazy. It's
You
just
sh you should
everything now.
tip creep, uh,
And the feeling we get's called tip fatigue.
or take I was thinking like a dip. I can't do nothing to tie it in, but they're talking. But now, like I looked oddly. I gave some notes. I did some looking into it, but I like we were talking about just before we got on the air. I guess that it's not just the places now that it's growing to. Like even medical offices are expecting tips now.
Well,
I knew a guy
my
that
proctologist, I'm just glad they didn't give me the tip. Um,
But there you
there's a
go.
doctor I know that does circumcisions and he does them for free. He just keeps the tips.
Oh, here we go. I thought you guys might be serious today. I don't know. Because I do have a joke about that, but I'm not going to say it on the air. But it's still like I guess it's kind of like they're saying since 2023, like when we talked about on episode 22, um, it's ramped up and it's like it's called guilt tipping now, and I understand why it's called that.
Some of it's fear tipping. Like if I order out of an app, say like if I'm going to order, which already pisses me off the amount that I have to pay when I order something from Chipotle. If I don't put a tip on that and I feel a fairly
Yeah,
robust tip, I feel it affects the way they make my food.
I agree. I
And
agree.
I will only say this, and it was probably completely random and circumstantial, but one time I forgot to put a tip on and my food was very light, and I gave the guy a tip there, and it was too late because he'd already
yeah,
made
he
it.
didn't have any ingredients in the car with him to.
It was, yeah, the one time that when you tip 20% on the app, you receive this huge amount of food from them. And I just,
Well, I don't know. Because I do, I mean, from my, same correlation for me, because as you're saying, I'm thinking of Torchy's, which is my local some of the best, but it's expensive. But I mean, like if you're talking $5, $6 a taco, to me, that's expensive.
That's
But then
outrageous.
they're,
But
then they're throwing 20% on top of that, and I correct it to $1 every time. And so far, I haven't seen any correlation, but
well, and what also gets me going is that, things have become so inflated at your restaurants. Even I don't want to pick on Chipotle because I love Chipotle, but you go to all these restaurants and what you can say KFC, a bucket of chicken and the sides now is $35. And you're looking at stuff like this and you're going to a place where they're turning the square thing around with the tip chart on there and you're going, man, you want a tip and a raise just because of inflation on your food, and that bothers me as well.
so, do you order your Chipotle on their app, or does it go through like DoorDash, for
I
instance?
use their app.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they would be aware of your tip.
yeah, they would.
I've still
And
never
well,
done any of that, but
I'll have to give DT kudos because he and I both were probably thinking, like, Holly, it's just you and the wife. Why the hell are you ordering a bucket of chicken anyway, you fat bastard? But
Uh, oddly enough, it's like I'll throw it in the fridge in the oven the next day. I don't have
oh
a
yeah,
problem with it.
I'm on board with. But because we have actual references like to like Wallet Hub, to me is like Nerd Wallet. Wallet Hub is a
Hmm.
reliable source. But they did a survey and they said nearly 90% of Americans think this culture's gone too far, which is up from 75% the previous year. So I imagine 2 years ago was probably 60%. So it's climbing. So many say they're tipping, like you say, out of obligation and not appreciation. So, one thirds are cutting back on businesses that pressure 'em. And that comes from Food and Wine magazine too.
Yeah,
Eh,
and I would say that probably the articles we probably read researching this were from earlier in the year. I'd say it's gotten worse the last few months as I think people are more having more problems with in the economy or whatever, and
Yeah,
food
yeah.
prices have gone up. Um, so yeah, I've read the same kind of stuff, and yeah, I don't know how much is enough when we're just going to go. I'm not doing that, but I would say a lot of restaurants in the fast casual space are struggling. Um, and some of that's probably because people know, well, if I go out and get breakfast, it's $20, for a couple eggs, a couple slices of bacon, piece of toast, and a cup of coffee. And with the tip, if you do the 20%. So, and if you do that fairly frequently, almost nobody probably the worst abusers of going out and eating are younger people who don't cook for themselves, who can least afford it. And then you're adding that gratuity on there that's forced. And are you getting anything additional for it, service wise?
Well, see that's the thing. I mean, it's like, when we were younger, it was a thank you for that type of service that you're asking about, DT. It was like, nice communicate or nice conversation. You want, can I refresh that coffee for you? Good attentive service or great food. And it was like, hey, thank you. This was a great experience. But now it's more just expected.
Well,
Yeah,
it's also too, when we look back at the tipping culture back when we were kids, we tipped people because the waitresses were usually single mothers that were trying to keep it together or whatever. Now it's that is even changing. Not that it matters who the person is that's doing it, but I think we created this culture by people saying, "Oh, give her a nice tip because she's single mother raising a kid, whatever." And then all of a sudden people think that there's a certain expectation on what you should get per hour for that particular position.
Hmm.
And that's one of my biggest caveats is, hey, man, if you think you're going to get a living wage from being a server at a restaurant, you really have a misconception of reality because for every one person that makes it well as a server, I'd say nine don't. Only probably one
Well,
in
I mean,
10.
because you're thinking, if you're like me, you're thinking of somebody, and I'll say her name straight up. Carrie Doherty was one of the best waitresses I've ever seen, and I'm glad she was working with us at our restaurant when we had her. But like you say, service workers still rely on tips, but there is a lot of critiques about that, arguing that the subsidies, which I'll give you and DT credit because you brought it up at the first episode, that this is us supporting what the owners should be doing. The subsidies, like they subsidize low wages that tips do, and it puts undue pressure on customers rather than addressing the structural pay issues. And that again, that comes from the Defender Network out of Jacksonville. I'm only assuming Florida, but because also in Florida, which is interesting, they're one of the first states to come up with an actual legislation. There's HD 535 is being proposed to ban automatic gratuities for small parties. And
Mhm.
which is a rare move toward trying to get control back.
And I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I mean, I think if it's, you know, also too, here's another thing about gratuities. Even if you're a larger party, like say you're going out to Disney or whatever, and you're a larger party, or say,
Your Disney references, I'm
or,
telling
or
you.
or I'll do something else. Just a really nice. There's this really nice restaurant that has like a signature chef that or that person is well known.
Or that waitress works there.
Well, but say, like say you're going to Wolfgang Puck's. When you go to Wolfgang Puck's and sit down, when you receive your check at the end of your meal, that check reflects the fact that you've eaten at Wolfgang Puck's. You're not only paying for food, you're paying for your creative experience from Wolfgang Puck.
Well, you
And
like to think
I
so
don't think
because,
that
like, again, that's a chain by now, so it's not. I understand the point you're trying to make. It's like Ruth's
yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
It's like,
But it would be
could the
different if you're
server do
just
something different? Like you probably took an order. A lot of the fancier places they don't write it down. They're more skilled at remembering the orders and remembering who got what. But you carried a plate of shit to my table and set it down.
so thank you, Wolfgang, for this plate of excrement.
I honestly, and this is an honest story. I know a person that works at Disney. I used to go to the gym with
I'm
them.
sure you
Oh
do.
no, this I'm sorry. I keep saying
We're not
Disney,
doubting you. We're not doubting you.
but all he does is bust tables. He busts his tables, and he makes 65 a year because they share in the tips, and he
Yeah,
doesn't make a
yeah.
lot of money per hour in wages.
Well, we used to share tips at Monty's Riverside Inn, DT. I think you'll recall that name fondly.
Yeah,
It's a Mexican restaurant now.
I know.
Shut up.
Yeah, I just ate there the other day. Marty, the
Monty's?
professor and I ate at Monty's, whatever it's called now,
It's Montenegros.
Oh no.
GLC. It's pretty
Oh
funny. They just put a
no.
white thing
I,
over the sign, the neon
I'll still
sign.
have I'll still have fond memories, and hopefully my youngest son will be listening to this episode because he proved them true. He proved this table of three old ladies when I was busting tables. They said, "Come here, come here," and I was like, "Oh, what did I screw up?" They're like, they made me bend over so they could whisper in my ear. They said, "You're going to father beautiful children one day." I'm like, "Oh, that's awfully nice of you." That's
As they were stuffing the dinner rolls in their purses.
probably, or behind me, they were taking the tips from the other tables.
Or if it was my, may they rest in peace, my grandma and great aunt as they cleaned out the sugars and jellies and
Oh
every
yeah,
other
oh yeah,
condiment
there's no doubt about
from
that.
the Cracker Barrel. Was my father went up to the cashier post and paid for all this shit and apologized.
Well, the ideal situation is going to be that restaurants and service businesses build the like they should. I mean, again, I'll give you guys credit because you brought this up in the first episode, but build them into the prices so the menu prices reflect the actual cost of service.
They have to, they don't know what it costs, what their operating cost per hour is. How come every other business in the world, they know what their operating cost per hour is, but you ask a restaurant owner what that is and they will stare at you
I
like
could.
they
I
don't
ran a
even know.
restaurant and I could tell you what it was.
And I realize it's tough. I understand that understand that keeping a cost per hour under wrap at a restaurant because you're dealing with something that's highly perishable. I know it's tough, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
still no
it
reason
is.
to expect your customers to make up the lion's share of your employees' salaries that work for you.
It
You
still
have to be
bothers me.
diligent.
It still bothers me less in a restaurant than it does a regular sit down restaurant, though, than it does in those places where they flip that screen over to you. Like I said, if you don't give me the service, I'm not giving you the tip. I don't. I will be the douchebag who's like, no. Um,
Have you guys seen that on automated kiosks, like at grocery stores or whatever? They're like, oh, by the way, not at grocery stores so much, but like anything you do automated, and they're like,
yeah,
hey, where's our?
yeah. It's not happening with this guy.
It's well, I think that's just a built-in feature with Square. If
Well,
you're using, yeah.
that's a good point because those companies that make that software make money from that, and that's one of the reasons you're not going to see legislation change it.
And we
That's
mentioned in the other episode, it makes me mad when they figure the tip on the calculated amount on the taxes.
X, yeah.
That pisses me off. If they're whatever, if my bill to go out with a group's $100, they added the 7.5% sales tax on it or whatever it is, and then they figure the 20 and 22 and 25% on the $107 instead of the 100. That automatically makes me tip less if I see it that way.
It's
Well,
crazy.
we say here we're griping like three guys off of that Seinfeld episode with the tip calculator, but the one thing that I would like to bring up and at least maybe bring up for discussion here is why don't restaurants that are failing, that you see good restaurants that just all of a sudden disappear because they can't, since COVID, because a lot of this has happened post COVID because
Yeah,
people's
let's take
attitude
COVID out of this. Yeah.
about going out. Why don't you change your business model? It's like one of the most successful businesses that I know of became a success because of COVID. They changed their business model. They closed their dining room down. They made it to go only, put an outdoor outdoor seating area if you want to sit there, but otherwise take it and go home. They told me they're like, our, we're doing better than we've ever done. People are happier. It's easier for us.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a couple of places like this, which I know probably struggle this time of year because it's so hot here. But we have a couple places like that around here where it's like an outdoor food court. And then there's
Well,
just
nobody
seat.
can eat there between April and November in
Well, yeah,
Florida.
but you can still, but there's, I mean, I think that the takeaway culture here is increased a great deal. I can see that happening a lot. There's a lot of window takeaway places, a lot of your wings places and stuff like that that don't have any seating. One of the best Cuban restaurants that I've ever eaten in,
At
well, it's
Disneyland?
I've never eaten in. It has two seats, three seats down by the window. You order to go. I
Well,
think that that's a good model, and it would
number
help
one,
them out too, and
DT.
they wouldn't have to worry about paying for help.
You'll see people in Texas like they don't care about the heat. They still go out to eat because we ain't a bunch of sissy pants. But
Fuck
but I
those.
think of what you make a good point though, because like it's like a lot of people learned like the business model from changes like companies like Amazon were doing, where they notify people of their shipment or things like it's a good business model, and people wanted to see that. And you're also seeing grocery stores like who had adapted, like you said, during COVID and offered grocery pickup, just put it straight in your trunk. That still
Hmm.
exists because people like it, and
Yeah,
it's a good
people get a
business model
service
now.
for that.
And I do tip them. I do. If I go someplace and I say I want it a curbside delivery because I'm just trying to run here and there, and some guy comes out and throws something in my trunk, I'll tip. I have like
Yeah,
25
heaven
ones in
forbid
my
you get your ass
console.
out of the car and walk the 14 steps to the counter and get your shit.
No,
What
usually
the
it's
fuck is
like
wrong with
no,
you?
it's so much. There's a couple places I love doing it, like Home Depot. It's so easy to go
Home
get something.
Depot, you, you
Yeah, Home
do
Depot,
that?
Walmart, whatever. You can go right there. Even if I'm taking something back to Amazon and going to the hub, you can just go in there, scan your QR code, the door pops open, you throw it in, you walk out. It's so easy. I don't mind doing that stuff. I just don't want to go.
I don't
Well,
want. Yeah,
these,
you probably are like think it's a blessing. There's a bump, pop a button on the dashboard to pop the trunk because you don't got to get out the car at all.
If I don't want to, no.
so the three old guys on this screen though are not the only ones who are pissed. So like this Wall Street Journal thing, Americans are tipping less than they have in years. Rising frustration leads to a tipping 6-year low,
Oh,
and
is
this
it?
is printed in January of this year. And I would say it's probably gone lower. It's down the national average in January. The ones that reported were
I still
it was
love how
down
you
to
print these out.
19,
Saliva,
19.3%. Um,
saliva content in food has gone up 10%.
yeah,
And you know that's probably true because as
yeah.
Dave
So
is
I mean,
driving,
I'm
we would
telling you.
insert a fly.
I'm telling you, I'm afraid not to put one on there when I order something to go. If I'm using the app, you got to surprise them. You got to go there and order at the pickup window because they're surprised. They
Well,
stare at you like deer in the headlights. They can't ask for a tip. It's
you built
just
that into
drive
your
through
mind
window.
that
I
I
go
don't
there
think
and sit in a chair and eat there, and then I determine the tip based on how they how they brought my food, how the service was. I ate at Bash the other night in Ottawa. Across the street from the funeral home. I went to a sushi.
that's
Like
a pretty
I just
location. Yeah. It's
so I
pretty-
left the visitation. I walked over to Bash, ordered. I sat at the bar, ordered some sushi, and I couldn't have got more cursory service from the bartender, who like throws the
Drink
menu
at
in
you.
front of me. Um, does a flyby. She doesn't even bring the somebody else. They have runners bring the food from the kitchen to you and stuff, and then the only smile you get the whole time is when they present the bill and do the fake, have a great night thing or something. And I'm like, so some of the other stuff I printed out, according to the Dash U Center at UCLA, they put together a tipping thing probably for visitors because it's for international students and scholars. And it said that 15% should be your baseline, 10% for subpar service, and 20% for excellent service. And that does more align with how I feel it ought to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'd like to see ideally that customers tip more conscientiously because you're rewarding great service, like you say. But like the likely scenario is that it's going to be, like us, people complain loudly, but still tip out of guilt or habit. But some, will quietly reduce tip amounts. Like let's just say Mitch Wonders at Sharky's. That's in Virginia. What's up, Sharky's? But at Torchy's. But tipping fatigue is kind of something that'll simmer instead of boiling over. So it's going to be like you're kind of taking it. It's just going to keep simmering like we're talking. Like we're still pissed 2.5 years later. but you're
And it's
still
just,
taking it.
I still think it's not fair when you're talking about even percentages because it's based on, unless you're getting some sort of a stellar signature experience. I don't know that it should be based on the check. Here's an example. My wife and I used to love to go to Steak and Shake. God, I love me a Steak and Shake. Go get a flat
Steak and
iron
Shake saved my
burger,
life one time.
a nice milkshake, and then if you tip them 20%, you're giving them $2, 2.50, because it's so freaking cheap to eat there. And I'm like, and these people are busting their ass. And I mean, literally, they're out there getting fresh milkshakes, all that stuff, brought it out to you. They're doing well. And it's like, just because in any other place they could give you the same plate, do the same busting ass, only the plate costs more and they get more money. And
Yeah,
I don't.
I totally agree with that. I, I ate at the Marcel's Family Diner the other day. Had uh, uh, Cajun O'Neill's daughter was the server.
Darla.
It's a
Well, no,
low,
not, not,
you
that's
know,
his
all the
sister.
old people eat there, so it's, I mean, it's low price, whatever. You get uh, Monday, you get a hamburger and fries for $6, and it's a pretty good hamburger. So, right, you're giving a $1.20 tip if you're doing 20%. So, yeah, I don't do that. But yeah, the same token, and Cajun's daughter worked as hard as a girl if I ate a $100 meal someplace, but I don't know how to remedy that one. Um, the tips I enjoy giving is once in a while. Don't you feel that way? You enjoy giving a tip to somebody because you know you're making their day.
I
I've
do.
complete
You know,
Almost
I
strangers
do.
I've
always.
done that before. And I saw a girl at a Cracker Barrel someplace I was traveling, and she was really taking care of this old couple. Helping the guy get up out of his chair. And the guy, whatever, he was 80 or 90 years old. So I don't know. I threw a 20 on the table for the tip, and she
Ooh,
came, whatever it was, 20 or 50, whatever it was. She ran out to the parking lot after I left. It was near the holiday. I was probably feeling some sort of melancholy. But when
boner.
she came out to the parking lot, sir, you tipped wrong. And I said, no, you know, I didn't. But um, you feel good about that. My friend's
Yeah.
daughter works at a restaurant in Ottawa uh, with a brick oven pizza place. And, she just got out of high school or whatever, started there. And so I made it a point. I mean, that's the only reason I went there. I knew she'd been working there for a while. I asked the parents, hey, is Riley working today? Yeah. I tried a couple times. So I went over there and had a late lunch and, you know, tipped just because it was that kid, the whole point of me going there and whatever. I wanted to go see her, say nice job and give
That's
her,
specialty tipping
yeah,
though. That's a specialty
yeah.
tip.
So that's not one that there's no complaint about. Like I said, but if I'm going to some place to get something in a bag, handed it to me, that's not going to get a tip. That's not getting a tip from me.
Here's what I do with my own personal thing. I keep singles and in my console. I also keep $5 Starbucks gift cards. And if somebody does something for me, like say
Yeah, here,
if
have
I
a
go get my
70% of a coffee.
well, yeah, well, no, I mean something like no, I've had people like I don't know what it was. Maybe if they did something extra special or brought a bunch of shit for me or whatever that I bought. I'm sorry, bought from a store. They had loaded my car, whatever. Give them a little something like that. Plus, when you buy your Starbucks gift cards from Amazon, I get 5% back.
Okay, you skeevy bastard. I knew it was going to go
What?
somewhere, but
Why
but
can't I
let's
get tipped too?
well
Why
the
can't I get
bot
tipped for being a good? Nobody tips me for paying the power bill on time. Oh, we
Yeah.
noticed you paid the power bill on time. Let's raise it $20.
if I was there with you now talking, I'd tip you upside the head.
I know,
But
and I miss those days. I really do.
That thing from
but
UCLA mentions, the 15% standard, 20 for excellent, 10 for poor. So for bartenders, they say $1 to $2 per drink, tip more
yeah,
depending on the complexity of the drink.
I
I'd
agree with that.
give
I
it,
You
think
draw me
we.
a beer, I'll give you a buck.
I don't know how much we tipped Bill at Sunnyland Tap, but we never got change back from any beer that we ordered from Sunnyland Tap.
We may have. By the time we were leaving, we didn't know.
Good old Bill.
food
Good old
delivery.
Bill.
They say $2 to $5 tip depending on how big the order is. Does that seem like that would be in your
For
range of
what?
food delivery?
Yeah.
$2 to $5 depending on how large
Yeah.
the order is.
Oh, usually it's minimum five for food
I
delivery.
always tip like I used to go like $2 a pizza, and then I just said I just get $5.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's like
I
haircut.
think like my
But
local pizza place, Joe Avola, I think they charge depending on how far it is. So, they run pizzas out to Saddlewood out north of town. It's 4 miles or something. I think there's a $3 or $4 fee on there, and then people usually tip on. So they get the drivers get that fee and whatever tip that somebody hands them.
well,
Um,
I think you guys will agree, like from the bottom line summary of this whole thing is the ideal situation is going to be fair wages plus transparent prices and voluntary tipping. But again, I think we all agree that the most likely scenario is going to be more of the same, more local, some local reforms like we talked about in Florida, and just lots of grumbling and mumbling, but literal structural change. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take legislation to change this because personally, it's not going to happen.
Until they open up their books, until restaurants. So it's just like Major League Baseball. Until restaurants open up their books, you're never going to know if they're making money hand over fist
Yeah, and that'll
or
never
what's
happen.
going on.
Because I
And
know back in the day in
until
the Illinois Valley, when we had, and not that I did it, but I was coached like as you're ringing, I was coached to like when you make your first sale of the evening, never shut the cash drawer. Just keep ringing it up and just keep making the cash change. So again, like you say, Holly, you don't have books to show because
yeah.
those tapes don't
Well,
exist. And at the end of the
so
night,
they
throw
get
away your
that
register
tax
tape.
break now. The servers
Pardon?
get that tax break now, no tax on tips up to $12,000 or something, which is sort of, there's a little irony there because if you know somebody that is a waitress that actually reports her tips to the IRS, I've never met people like
why that person deserves what they get.
Yeah, because I saw the same thing like when I had like windshield glass on the Wrangler replaced, and that's something if you own a Wrangler every 2 years I replace a damn windshield. But
Oh,
the guy the person that came up, he's like, hey, there's a 5% discount if you've got cash. And I'm like, what?
my
Uh,
wife and I are thinking about buying a new vehicle, and I was looking at new Wranglers the other day, and I was just so saddened to see that they're starting at like 65. And I'm
yeah,
like, come
yeah,
on,
it's
man.
ridiculous.
Come
Yeah,
on, man. Really? You need that much?
those cash
But
businesses are pretty funny. So you guys remember Rip's Chicken over in Ladd, right?
boy, do I.
remember
Wait,
it.
you say remember? Are they still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
last time I was there, still after 90 years, they're still a cash only business.
Oh yeah, they're no fools.
Still a buck
Yeah.
49, two
So what do
piece
you
of
think that's
chicken.
all about? You think that's about the 3% they would have to pay Visa and MasterCard? Or you think that's about, oh, we had a good night tonight. We made $300.
It's funny you mentioned that because there's so many places still in Texas. I'd never seen anything like it that were still cash only businesses. I just thought it was colloquial and it was like, nice and endearing. But like you said, it's probably tax breaks. They're no fools.
And it really
You
is.
said,
There's a lot of places that are now going cashless altogether. Like I was surprised to see this because I'm like, this might. I was
Cashless.
wondering if it would affect their attendance because SeaWorld was the first theme park down anywhere that went completely cashless. How do you do that for everything?
What do you
It's
mean? Oh,
like
okay.
because some people are like, well, I don't have a credit card, and that might start limiting your audience, but I don't think it, and they need the audience more than the other two because the other two have it running in.
I have seen that at a few places. I mean, that's kind of funny. My gym went that way because I think the employees were probably stealing the ones when or whatever when somebody buy a bottle of water or a candy bar or something. So you just have a card on file. If you want something at their snack bar area or whatever, you
Yeah,
just
which
wave
is
your
sad
money.
on top of being sad because you buy something there, you're paying like $4 for a bottle of what's name me a cheap water, Deer Park.
Yeah. So it's just kind of
Poland Springs.
so. Yeah, I mean, I get it. People, you can't trust people who are working at the cash register. I think we've all worked at the cash register enough to know that those people have situational ethics. That's why a lot of them have the camera above the cash register now. The bars. Uh,
My
Yeah,
wife
that's
has
that.
that when she sees me do the books. She's like got a couple cameras on me.
And absolutely justified in doing so, I reckon. But thanks again, guys, for getting together for this episode. Like I said, I thought it was worth discussing. Hopefully, the Mitch Wonders podcast on YouTube, on TikTok, on Spotify, on wherever you're listening, and you can actually like and subscribe too if you're of a mindset. Oh yeah, and if you like, you can also go to Amazon.com and pick up the Mitch Wonders book,
It's
air
here.
quotes.
It really is here. It just won't show up on my screen because I have a magic
But
screen.
but yeah, and honestly, it's called Life's Tough, Be Tougher, but really it's just like lessons that Mitch has learned. Well, I gotta stop talking to myself in the third person that I've learned over the years. Maybe it'll help you too. Just like get back in the saddle if you've been kicked in the scones, and just let you know that we're all going through it. So,
And
but again,
I've read it twice, and not because it was the length of like the pamphlet for Great Jewish Sports Legends, but I read it twice, and actually, it is a very good book.
And
hey,
it's
thanks, man.
available in other languages too, I think, right?
It
Pick
better be because
Latin,
it's the
just
ebook's available around the world. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
but uh, but
pick
thanks
Latin and
again, guys.
Ebonics.
Thanks for chatting. And if it sounds like I'm cutting you off so you don't rip me apart anymore, it is. That's what I'm doing. So until
We
next
didn't
time,
even get to
guys.
talk about the tip rail, my favorite type of tipping.
Okay. And we're done. We'll see you next time, guys.